Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Sketch to See. This is kind of a unique episode, as it is viewer-inspired and viewer-requested. So what I'm going to do is go through the comment section on YouTube and answer a whole bunch of your questions. In the meantime, I'd really appreciate it if you haven't already. Please like, subscribe, and share our channel. One small click from you goes a long way for us. And if you're not already, feel free to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. But stay tuned, and let's hear what you guys have to say. So I'm just going to dive right into it. These comments are from a whole range of different videos that I've put out over the past few months. Unfortunately, we're not diving way back into the past, but I'll just get right into it. Carla Merritt 490 asked, can you see or monitor power consumption of your power winches? Asking in case it could be used to monitor the sail track and its function. Maybe a way to catch snags before they happen. Oh, and masthead cam. Can they be used to check bridge clearances? There's a few questions there. And the simple answer is yes, we can monitor the consumption of our power winches. They are all run off of a central hydraulic power pack, and the PLC is also in the flybridge. That PLC assigns the different individual hydraulic motors to come on and off depending on what function is being used, whether that's the bow thruster, the windlass, or any of the winches as you ask. Unfortunately, it won't tell us if there is a snag or something like that in the lines. All that we would hear is the winch is working a little bit harder and it would slow down, but it will not electrically monitor itself or cut itself off. Masthead cam. So that is a completely different thing. We have two different cameras on our mast. We have a night vision camera on a spreader, and then we have our Oscar Competition 640 on the masthead. The Oscar Competition would absolutely be able to tell us if we were at risk of not clearing a bridge. So in that case, the answer is yes. What we use the spreader cam for the most is night vision, and it is fantastic provided we're on the right tack, because when we have a head sail out, it blocks about 60% of the camera's viewing range. So thank you, Carla Merritt 490, for asking and writing in. I hope that answers your questions. The next one is at Astaneland, Astaneland. You have one amazing and complex electrical system on your yacht. Can't wait to see the next video. I'm sure you will learn to diversify your load requirements as you become familiar with everything, which means you won't have to charge those batteries so hard. Thanks for a great video. That's a very good question and a great comment. Now that we've been living on board and out of the shipping channel in China, and yes, there will be a video on that shortly, we've actually started using the boat the way that it was intended. So we are diversifying loads, as you mentioned, but we're still using all the systems that we want to on the boat. We don't hesitate to turn on an oven. We don't hesitate to do laundry. We just have to be a little bit mindful of where our batteries are. And in general, if it's an overcast day, we'll have to run the gensets for about 2 hours, and then we can have our batteries from flat to 100% in about 2 hours, and that should give us enough power to make it through the night at least, and then for the rest of the day. So normally what we do is we run the gensets while we're making dinner, because that's also probably peak load if we have both ovens on and we're doing some laundry at the same time and whatnot. But it has been really nice to see the boat come together as it was originally intended to and designed to. All the systems really are very, very efficient and draw very, very little energy on a regular basis for the standard hotel load. So I would definitely say the galley and the water are the highest consumers on the vessel in general. And we actually left the boat for an entire afternoon. We left around, 12:15 or something like that, and only got back around 10 o'clock at night after dinner. The boat was entirely unoccupied. No genset was on or anything like that. And we just shut off all the air conditioning and left, and we got back and there was still 50% battery left. or 48 or something very, very close to that. So we were quite content with that. And in addition to that, we also have Sentinel programs. So we can actually monitor and turn our gensets on and off remotely, depending on what our phone is telling us and the status of the boat is. That Sentinel program, we did not have it set up the other night when we were off the boat, but that kind of keyed us to get it. It acted as the catalyst for us to get that set up so we can actually walk away from the boat kind of worry-free with the entire crew and do an event or something. So thank you for that question. At Billy Reed 68. Nice to see that you built in a bunch of redundancy. That boat should be able to run completely autonomously when not under a heavy load. You will only be starting the gensets when you have guests. Can't wait to see the performance numbers you get out of some of that wind you're getting there. And please include the load numbers on the rigging. Okay, so a couple of questions there. We did build in a whole bunch of redundancy, and that was a key part of the design brief from day one. All of our AC pumps are the same size. All of our water pumps are the same size. The impellers are the same size, both on the generators and the engines. And we really tried to minimize our spare parts list on board. That being said, we do have adequate inventory of spares available on the boat at any given time. Yeah, so it will come out in a later video that we have left China now, but you will find out, we found out certainly during our initial crossing, how important to having that many redundant systems was. Again, I will go into detail about that initial passage in another video. Performance numbers. We have found ourselves trying to slow the boat down on quite a few occasions, and leaving China, we left in some very unfortunate circumstances, i.e. 3-4 meter seas and 30 knot winds gusting up to 40, and we were beating into the wind at a between 30 and 45 degrees. It was pretty uncomfortable, but that being said, we were still doing 12 and 13 knots, which was part of the problem. We needed to slow the boat down towards 8 and 9 knots, and that way it was a little bit more comfortable. I think we were on third reef and just had our staysail out, but the boat handled, it plowed through. We were very, very happy with the performance numbers. We've only had one day of quote-unquote champagne sailing, and I say that because I was in the galley preparing dinner, and for 3 hours we were moving between 10 and 12 and a half knots. I can't tell you what the wind speed was because we lost all of our wind instruments on that initial voyage out of China. So I can't comment there, but our backups are going to be here soon, and I will update you accordingly. So thank you very much, Billy Reed 68, for commenting. At Robert Ewalt 779, how much solar power on an overcast day? Well, I have my iPad right here. Today is not overcast, but we are well into the afternoon, so not at an optimum sun angle at all. And I can just show you the live feed.
You have to lift it.
We're doing 30, 7.2, and 17 at this exact moment. No genset on. We're currently minus 110 amps on our draw, which means with the battery at 70%, we probably have another, 7 or 8 hours before we need to fire up a genset. That will be well into the evening. The sun will already be gone down. So that number, this discrepancy will only get higher as the solar is putting in less. But in general, the 7.2 kilowatts of solar that we have between our coach roof and the flybridge roof, peak does 150, overcast day probably around 80 to 100, which would be a condition very similar to what we're in right now. Lots of other cool things on this, but yeah, that's a whole nother episode in itself. So thank you, Robert, for the question. Tony Gariepi said, the design of this vessel is astounding. How many miles of electrical wiring is there? Looking forward to additional videos. Thank you so much for sharing. Well, Tony, there is between 2.5 and 3 kilometers of electrical cabling on this boat. And I don't just mean specifically electrical, I mean Cat 5, Cat 7, and different communication cables as well. We actually even had some coax cable on this boat, but we decided to get rid of those cameras in their entirety because it was not a very effective system, and unfortunately it was just designed quite a long time ago. So thank you, Tony, for writing in. The next question is at CodeGame027. Is the boat set up for regeneration off the prop slash shaft drive when you are underway? Unrelated, do AC units, other draws have, I'm going to summarize this one real quick. Do the AC units require a soft start system? So thank you for the question. We are not set up for regeneration, and that is something I find kind of controversial in the whole marine space whatsoever, because boats aren't always on the move. Regeneration is only of a benefit when you're moving. And the average boat owner only moves their boat, 90% of the time you're at anchor, 10% of the time you're underway. So to spend the amount of money that it costs to implement the regen drives and whatnot, to only be able to use it on average 10, maybe 15% of the time, it just didn't make sense to me. So no, we don't have regeneration. We are not set up for regeneration. That would have been an additional 2 electric motors, 1 per shaft drive, and then it would be a separate clutching system for engaging, disengaging those motors, and on top of that, we would have to potentially do something with the props to make sure that they lock in gear in order to force the regen. So that was not something that I was too keen on. The second part of your question was about the AC units and soft starts. So our inverters, the Combi Masters from Mastervolt, are capable of doing twice peak load for short bursts of time. So in general, yes, they do. They are set up for soft start. But in addition to that, we have individual soft starts on every single one of our AC units. It's just another one of those built-in redundancies that we have. So thank you so much for the question. I really hope that answers it best. This next one's kind of tricky. At DC 1544, the heat coming from AC units should heat any water needed. So many ways to make systems more eco-friendly. Heat pumps to cool and heat. If hybrid would have been used for engines when sailing, regen could keep batteries full. Yes, okay. So, multi-pronged question here. The AC units, the exhaust from the AC units can only heat to a certain capacity, and with the amount of water that this boat is able to consume, if we do have a full load, there is no way that just the AC units were going to keep up alone. And right now, currently, we are sitting in Japan. We haven't had the AC on in over 2 days because it's a beautiful ambient temperature, and all we do is just open up the boat and open up the windows. So we definitely do need the water heaters that we have on board, and we currently only have one of them on right now. And inside the Torrid marine water makers that we have, there are 2 elements, one 2 kilowatt, one 1 kilowatt. So when you turn them on, both elements come on, raise the temperature of the water to whatever you have it set at, and then it only uses the 1 kilowatt probe intermittently to maintain that set temperature. The other thing that we do is we run our engine exhaust through a heat exchanger through the through the domestic hot water cylinders themselves. This, again, is the most eco-friendly way that we have been able to set it up. And we do the same thing with our generator exhaust as well. So we try and save and consume as little diesel as possible, but also try and enjoy and use the boat the way it was designed to. So we tried to be effective, efficient, and friendly, and still be able to use all the systems that we want to on board. If we really want to dive deep into this thing, we also could have run the compressor that fills our scuba bottle. That has another exhaust and produces an immense amount of heat, just by the nature of filling the bottles themselves. So if you really wanted to dive into it, you'd have to find some way to have those bottles submerged in a tank while you were filling them and heat that water too. There's just endless ways that you can theorize about it, and I think what we've done on board here is come up with the most user-friendly and effective ways and efficient ways possible without creating a monster of a system to service. So thank you very much for the question. So what a lot of people don't understand is this boat was actually designed almost 5 years ago. And yes, technology does change all the time. We didn't buy, all of our air conditioning pumps 5 years ago. We only bought them perhaps maybe a year ago. We're not against technology changing, but we have definitely been victimized in some of the technological changes throughout the development of this vessel between the lead times of when we had to buy things. And you also have to keep in mind that this was all built during COVID. So we really had to plan ahead and make sure that we avoided any supply chain issues getting some of these things, which meant that we were purchasing some of these items 6 months earlier than we normally would have just to finish and outfit this boat. So that being said, if technology does eventually change and that does become a more effective system, we are not opposed to bringing the boat back up to date or implementing this new technology in the future on our next refit or haul out, or if we need to make a substantial change and we feel that something is just not working for us correctly on board as it is. So thank you for the question. I really hope that answers it in the best way I possibly can, and thank you again for the question. So I'm going to wrap it up with a simple question. Tyson Ristow 4995 asked, I have used rope lighting on my sailboat and it wasn't diffused enough. You could see the individual lights in the reflection. Can I ask what product they used, or at least what it looks like? Maybe they've added a diffuser over top of it. You are correct. They did add a diffuser over top of it, and it is Quick brand marine lighting. So if you go to Quick Marine Lighting, a simple Google search or something like that will reveal that it's a product out of Italy, but I can confirm that they did have to add a diffuser over top of it, so we do not see the individual LED lights themselves. I am not affiliated, sponsored, or have anything to do with Quick, but that is the product that is installed on our vessel. I just wanted to thank everybody for their patience, and we really appreciate your support. First of all, I apologize if I said anybody's name wrong or incorrectly. My bad. You guys do it to me all the time, though. I still haven't quite figured out how to spell Sean. But strange enough, that's fine. Yeah, as you can see, we're in a different location. There will be a lot more on this in the future, and I feel really bad that I haven't been able to put anything out in the past couple of weeks, but we've had a wild couple of weeks. Some great moments and some very, very trying moments, to say the least. So we really appreciate your patience and your support of the channel. Please keep writing in. I will endeavor to respond to as many of your comments as I possibly can. Thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share our channel. One small click from you goes a long way for us. And if you just want to talk about boats, you can always write to me at sketchc@gmail.com. And again, as I said in the intro, if you're not following us on Instagram and Facebook, please go ahead and do that now. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to getting back into this and providing more weekly content. Thank you again.